Hello, I'm Sister Joanne Iannotti, Art and Spirituality Coordinator at Wisdom House Retreat and Conference Center. Today I'm immersed in a garden of tapestries. Tapestries not woven from exotic threads or featuring mythical characters, but tapestries woven right from the stuff of nature itself. Intriguing tapestries woven right in the garden. The garden that we will visit is the garden of photographer Judith Petrovich, who shares with us her Garden Frost series. Through her discerning eye and her wonderful camera, she shares with us a world that is right underneath our feet.
Hi, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Judith Petrovich, the photographer of the Garden Tapestries series. And first of all, I'd love to thank Sister Joanne Iannotti at the Marie Louise Trichet Art Gallery for the invitation to show the series here. I thought it was an ideal combination between the season of the work and the kind of emphasis of the meditative quality of this work. So I'm very pleased to have the show here. This is a image that I call Leaf Wrap. It's part of a Garden Frost series that I initiated, perhaps about six years ago. It takes place at a very specific time frame, an early morning before the sun's rays have hit the garden. It happens to be my personal garden. And it is based on kind of natural rhythms and the garden, what exists, the different plant life in the garden. This is an image I call Woven Iris. It happens to be number 3 in the series. Partially what I love about this image too is the fact that on occasions, it doesn't happen all the time, but an image can be flipped and shown vertically or horizontally. And this happens to be one that it was a question, which direction to show it, one or the other. But the Woven series is basically iris forms. The leaf forms are iris in my garden. The other thing I'll mention is that this series is all silver gelatin prints. I'm actually in the darkroom when these are created. This is not an inkjet print. This is a very authentic, almost antique process at this point in time. But I still love the rhythm of the darkroom and working in the darkroom. This image is called Calligraphy. It's part of the Calligraphy series. It's actually calligraphy number 4. It relates to almost like word-like things that happen, or images that happen, icons within the image that I think relate to the kind of gesture that you get when you're painting or drawing. I especially think that it happens for me in the winter when I see something in the landscape, and I've photographed landscapes in the winter, that they represent almost a drawing for me. Not being an artist in that sense, I use the camera, so I try to find things that relate to gesture. This image is called Tradescantia. It's a flower commonly known as the spiderwort, and this particular image is taken on the first morning after the killing frost. It represents the flowers, and by later in the day they will dissipate completely. So it's the cusp, it's the beginning of the frost season for me, and I have to say I relish when I actually am here at my garden and capture it, because it isn't something you can time with any authority, etc. But it is kind of that for me. It's a time of the death of one season, but then again it also represents what will be the rebirth of the garden and the season in the spring again. So we have that to look forward to always. This I call Woven Iris. It's Woven Iris number 1. It's an attempt at a really abstracted view of the iris with no other life forms in it, in a sense. I mean, there aren't seed pods, there aren't, there isn't a hint of what might come next year in this image. It just exists in its own abstraction. And I was asked what was the initial inspiration for the series, other than it's a combination of the garden, yes, for me, because I'm a big gardener. It was also based on the fact that a few years ago I started a series of water images. The water taking on various forms, from frozen to snow to rushing water to dewdrops, teardrops, whatever, on the landscape in a sense. And that was the first time I started to photograph frost on the garden. And so it's been a continuing series that I'd love to capture. The challenge is being here at the right time, because, you know, some days you'll wake up and, yeah, it's cold and it's frosty. That's great. But other days you'll wake up and, hey, it rained. No frost. I'll have to put it off till another day. So I do love this season for that. Fall has always been one of my favorite seasons. So it helps that I have something that I get into a rhythm of working, doing it. And I just continue to love the series and hope to continue to work on it for many years, in and out of my own garden.
A garden is a place of magic in any season. This particular exhibit will be on exhibit until January 2, 2009, and we invite you to come to Wisdom House to sit in Judith's garden and then return home and appreciate the one right in your own backyard.